As we all know, pro sports are insanely hard. Having a successful and lengthy career is also hard. If you could right now think of your favorite player in any sport ever, chances are that when they first debuted for their respective leagues, they most likely put up an absolute stinker in their first game, which is fine because no matter how good of a prospect you are, sometimes the truth is they didn't exactly know how to handle the pros yet, as most rookies struggle all year long and don't figure it out until years 2 and 3. But for a very select few players, they do the improbable and enter the league and set it on fire right away. From near quadruple doubles in the NBA to complete game shutouts in the MLB, today we will go over these select few players that have done just that. But I'm not here just to talk about a great first game. I'm here to talk about peaking in your first ever game and then failing to ever surpass those stat lines. Even if the rest of their careers would wind up being rather good, these guys just happen to have their very best games in their first pro career game. These players set the bar a little too high for themselves, and after day one, the rest of their career was downhill. What's up everyone, my name is IcyVert. Please do not forget to like and subscribe, and I hope you enjoy the video. Michael Carter Williams is one of the more curious cases of what went wrong in NBA history. He was a highly touted NBA prospect, which was reflected by the Philadelphia 76ers taking him 11th overall in the 2013 NBA draft. For fans, they had every reason to be excited for Carter Williams, but ultimately his arrival kicked off the start of the process era for Philadelphia basketball. But for the fans and team alike, they thought Michael Carter Williams was their savior, the truth, and the future after his first game, and they had every reason to think this because his first game was truly the best game of his short Sixers career and his career as a whole. And before I dive into the numbers, I want to give my argument as to why this game was the peak of his career. And well, simply if you go on Google right now and you type in Michael Carter Williams best game, the results will be littered with Reddit think pieces and links to the box score of this game against the Miami Heat on October 30th, 2013. So without further ado, let's talk about this game. Carter Williams blew everyone's mind right out of the gates by doing a lot of everything this game. 22 points, 7 boards, 12 assists, 9 steals, and even 4 3-pointers made to boot. His game score on Basketball Reference was a 34.7. He never got up past a 26 again in his whole career. A near quadruple double in your NBA debut is absolutely unheard of, and even more impressive is some of these totals would be career highs for Williams for not only months and years, but till this very day. Using RealGM's career total trackers, his 9 steals and 4 3-pointers still stand till this day as career highs. And in today's NBA, 4 3-pointers in a game isn't exactly mind-blowing, but what is hard to wrap your head around is knowing that he's not even tied the total of 4 threes in a game since then. Sixers fans thought they had a sniper, a 3-and-D hero, and an NBA version of the Hamburglar with his 9 steals. But unfortunately, that was it. This was the highest Michael Carter Williams would ever go in terms of on-court production. And I don't want to act like he never scored again. Sure, there were flashes of talent here and there, but never a full complete game like this one that he put together the first time he ever stepped foot on an NBA court. And if we want to talk about hard sports, let's talk about the NFL, because the NFL is insanely hard, like so unbelievably hard. If you and I were asked to get 10, 5, or even 1 yard in a single game, you know, it's safe to say that's not going to happen. So for players to come along and punch opposing defenses in the face as hard as Anquan Boldin did is beyond impressive. On September 7th, 2003, in his first of many phenomenal NFL performances, Anquan actually had his best of them all in his NFL debut versus the Detroit Lions. 10 catches for 217 yards and 2 tutties is rare at any level, let alone versus an NFL caliber defense, and it is one hell of a way to put the league on notice. A second round talent showing right away that he belonged in the NFL. Granted, that 2003 season, the Lions were ranked 25th in defense, but I'm sure Anquan faced even worse defenses along the way in his impressive 14-year career. Because for the rest of his career, Boldin had just 2 200-yard games, and 100-yard games felt like a normalcy, but the second 200-yard game would not come until 10 years later versus the Green Bay Packers. Boldin turned in a very solid career with over 13,000 receiving yards and catching 82 touchdowns, but his career high in yards in a game came in that very first game back in 2003. And before we move on, I do want to clarify that yes, some of these players went on to have great careers, whereas some failed miserably to make it in their respective leagues. And speaking of players struggling to make in their respective leagues, Andy Van Hekken has one of the weirdest situations on this list. Drafted in 1998 by Seattle but didn't debut until September 2002 for the Tigers, which obviously is nothing new, but the anomaly started with his first major league appearance versus the then Cleveland Indians, where Van Hekken threw a complete game shutout with some interesting numbers that stemmed from it. He had just one strikeout, gave up 8 hits, walked 2, and threw 114 pitches, putting together a strong and memorable start to a promising career for the left-hander, or so you would think. Van Hekken would pitch just 4 more games and gain just 4 more strikeouts that season. So for all you stat heads, that's a strikeout per game, and I'm glad I could help. Oh, and these 5 games, well, those were the last time Van Hekken would ever step foot on an MLB mound, as he would never make it out of AAA. And once he left America to find his footing in other leagues, he too would bounce around in the KBO, NBP, and CPBL. Van Hekken would eventually retire in 2018, where he last played for the Uni-President 7-Eleven Lions, and oh my god, what a name. I mean, imagine it's, I don't know, like the 7-Eleven New York Yankees. That's a good idea. Well, let's talk some NHL real quick, and this is my personal favorite sport, and I may be biased because I played for 12 years, and I may be even more biased towards goalie performances because that was the position that I played, but let's talk about San Jose Sharks goalie Troy Grosenick. Troy was a talented young goalie that went undrafted and was an AHL All-Star that showed flashes of being an NHL level goalie and finally got his break when the San Jose Sharks goalie Alex Stalock got placed on IR, opening the door for a call-up, which came for Grosenick. Like many players, this opportunity would not be squandered as he showed up to the NHL for his first ever game against the Carolina Hurricanes on November 16th, 2014, where he posted a 45 save shutout. And if you know hockey and if you know the NHL, you know how rare a shutout is and you know how impressive a 45 save shutout is. His 45 saves are an NHL record for the most ever by a goalie making his professional debut till this day. Sadly for Troy, he would only play just one more game for the Sharks as he suffered a concussion and would not return to the NHL until 2020 with the LA Kings. Troy currently is back in the AHL playing with the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. Let's quickly pivot back to the NFL and let's talk about NFL quarterback David Blough. And I'm sorry, I hate to admit it, but David Blough is not the best NFL quarterback ever. He's not in the top 10, maybe 50 or 100, and that pains me to say, I know, and I am sorry, but he did have one really good game for his standards in the NFL against division rival Chicago Bears. On Thanksgiving Day in front of the whole country, David Blough cooked more defense than your family could cook turkey that day. With 280 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception, Blough did exactly what was asked of him, try and win the game for some very bad Lions teams. But unfortunately, he would go on to lose this game in all 5 of the games that he started that season. But for him, this game featured the most yards of his career, the most touchdown passes, and the best single game QBR. Here he had 2 touchdowns in his debut and only 4 more for the rest of his career, and just 6 total games played ever since. Just like that, an unexpected hero playing in his first ever game on Thanksgiving faded away into the wind just as quickly as he came. Like I said earlier, the NFL is insanely hard, and even getting one chance to play is a blessing. Blough made the most of his first career start, but failed to consistently be great and is now out of the league. As we know, being an MLB pitcher is hard, but being a rookie pitcher is scary. There's one thing a rookie pitcher does have to their advantage though. Your pro scouting report is not fully complete. Sure, teams will know what you do well in the minors, but they have yet to face you as a pitcher. And Nick Kingham took full advantage of this in his first MLB game versus the St. Louis Cardinals in April of 2018. As during this game, he would take a perfect game through 6 2/3 innings before allowing a single to Paul DeJong, where he struck out 9 in his first 7 full innings of work. And right away, Nick Kingham looked like he belonged in the MLB, but only to leave with a negative WAR for his career in 43 career games. This is obviously by far the best game of his career, as teams eventually figured out how to hit him, and this is evident because in 18 games, or 15 starts as a rookie, he finished 5-7 with an ERA of 5.21 in 76 innings of work, and he would bounce from starter to bullpen, and then from team to team, and eventually from league to league. Kingham moved to the KBO and now plays in the CPBL with a 7.7 career ERA there. Lasting just one more season in the show after making a perfect game bid in his debut, Kingham still pitches to this day, and I'm sure he is hoping of making a comeback to the MLB. Andre Ingram is a very curious case, but still checks off all the boxes for this topic. He's a G League legend who holds the record for the most three-pointers made in a G League career, which makes sense because his G League career rivals LeBron's NBA career in terms of longevity. 17 years in the G League, and no, I am not exaggerating or even lying. He first stepped foot on a G League court in 2007 when I was just 4 years of age, and still to this day is playing there. Andre got his big break in 2018 when the Lakers caught him up for the final 2 games of the season. At 32 years of age, this made Andre Ingram the second oldest rookie of all time. He would score 19 points with 4 threes in a losing effort to the Houston Rockets, and that's all it took for 32-year-old Andre Ingram to make it in this video. He would never top that performance in an NBA game, as he would only start just one more game again in the NBA and followed up with 5 points on 2 of 9 shooting that game. And fun fact, according to Business Insider, Ingram earned $13,824 for his 3 days with the Lakers after making just $19,000 for the entirety of the G League season that year. Jason Jennings was the number 16 overall pick in 1999, and it was for a good reason. The dude was a stud in both baseball and football. In football, he excelled as a punter and kicker, but where he shined was on the pitcher's mound. But what his curse might have been was being asked to be a pitcher for the Colorado Rockies in his MLB career. And that is a test that, typically doesn't go so well for the past 30 plus years of Rockies baseball. But in his very first game, he started off with the absolute most electric game that any pitcher has ever really put together till this day. He not only got his first career hit in his first plate appearance, but he would hit a home run later in that game in the 9th inning to give the Rockies a 10-0 lead. And I mean, pitchers hitting home runs in this economy, it's not happening. And it certainly doesn't happen anymore, but it did at a time before the universal DH was implemented. And I really hope that one of you picked up on me saying that the game was 10-0, because as Jason Jennings not only was raking from the plate, he was also shoving from the mound all game long too, with a complete game shutout to boot. And I mean, this is it. This is the top of the mountain for Jennings. 9 innings, 8 strikeouts, 0 runs allowed, 3 hits on offense with 2 RBIs and a home run. Talk about complete domination in a game, let alone your first game. And this season, Jason Jennings went on to win the Rookie of the Year award and was a mainstay in the Rockies rotation for another 5 years, except he never recaptured this level of dominance again. And I mean, can you really blame the guy? A complete game shutout while also having a huge day at the plate is just so unbelievably rare, and now is borderline impossible, unless you're Shohei Ohtani, of course. This game also had a game score of 81, and he made 224 more big league appearances in his career, and only one of them would go on to beat this score. But he didn't go 3 for 5 with a homer in that one, so eat your heart out, Jason Jennings. And how could we forget that he had this dominant debut against the Mets, and hell yeah, baby, it's all about the Mets, M-E-T. And for all these players, that's all they had. Their first game was the one that they should never forget and remember the most, because everything that came after would be better left forgotten for some players. Nonetheless, for all these players, their dream of making it to the greatest leagues in the world was finally realized, and they will always have that, and no one can take that from them. To this day, some of their records have yet to be broken, and sure, all records are meant to be broken, but there's a chance that some of these could really be untouched. And trust me, I know there are more cases that fall under these guidelines, so if you would like to help me out, drop a comment below and maybe I can make a part 2 about this. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.